Cue and Review, celebrating 40 years of audio production, welcomes you to this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports podcast, recorded from our studio in the Bishopbriggs Media Centre and by our volunteers working from home. Keep up to date with Cue and Review news via our Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, or Instagram at Cue and Review. That's @CUEANDREVIEW, or get in touch with us directly by emailing information@cueandreview.com. That's INFORMATION @CUEANDREVIEW.com, or by calling us on 0141 772 3979. Please like and share our podcast and give us constructive feedback.
This is from the Glasgow Times of Thursday the 20th of March 2025 from the sports section. Rangers fans can now fly directly from Glasgow to Bilbao. This article is by Martin Macmillan. Rangers fans can now fly directly from Glasgow to Bilbao. Spanish airline Vueling has announced a special direct flight for the Europa League quarter-final against Athletic Club. The first leg will be played at Ibrox on April the 10th, with the return match in Bilbao on April the 17th. Until now, there were no direct flights between Glasgow and Bilbao, with fans having to stop off in Amsterdam or Palma. The chartered plane will carry 200 passengers and has a flight time of 2 hours and 25 minutes. The flight will leave Glasgow at 9:30 a.m. on the day of the game and arrive in Bilbao at 1:05 p.m. local time. The return flight departs at 7 a.m. the next morning, April the 18th, and lands in Glasgow at 8:25 a.m. local time. The cost of this direct flight for Rangers fans is around $427. The same offer is there for Bilbao fans looking for the easiest way to get to Glasgow a week earlier. However, they will have to pay slightly more at £478. The winner of the tie will go on to play either Manchester United or Lyon in the semi-finals. That article was by Martin Macmillan. This is from the Glasgow Times of Thursday the 20th of March 2025 from the sports section. Ultras leading Greek football's pyro fight following flare fatality. This article is by Matthew Lindsay. Numerous suggestions about how to snuff out the use of pyrotechnics in Scottish football have been put forward during the past couple of seasons as the problem has steadily escalated. Introducing safe pyro sections inside grounds, forcing sides to play matches behind closed doors, hitting clubs with fines and even points deductions, launching awareness campaigns to warn of the dangers, and issuing offenders with football banning orders have all been proposed. Asking the ultras groups, which follow most, if not all, of the teams in this country to spearhead the drive to eradicate fires, smoke bombs, strobes, flashbangs and rockets from the stands is not an avenue which has been seriously explored. The members of Block 7, Gorgie Ultras, the Green Brigade, the Red Army, the Union Bears and the like are, rightly or wrongly, perceived as being the cause of the issue, not a potential solution. Yet, in Greece, whose supporters have long had a deserved reputation for being the most passionate, volatile and extreme in the world game, huge strides forward have been made in the battle against pyrotechnics in recent months by enlisting the help of the hardcore element of their major clubs' fan bases. There has been a definite improvement in the pyrotechnic problem in Greek football this season, said Stephen Kunturu, the host of the Hellas football podcast. There have been fewer cases of pyrotechnic use. The Olympiakos ultras come out on social media before every big game, whether it is in Europe or in the Greek Super League, and say, no flares, no pyrotechnics, just atmosphere. The Gate 7 ultras, who are named in honour of the 21 people who lost their lives in the Karaiskakis Stadium disaster in 1981, take it very, very seriously for sure. And their sentiments have very much been echoed throughout other Greek football supports. The problem is far from over, but it's starting to become less of an issue. The death of Greek police officer Georgios Ligaridis, who was killed after being struck by a marine flare which was thrown at him by a football hooligan outside of a volleyball match between Olympiakos and Panathinaikos in Athens in December of 2023, prompted the government and football authorities to take radical action. Police Minister Giannis Economou promised there would be a steadfast social alliance against violence after Ligaridis, who suffered severe arterial damage to his thigh and passed away as the result of his injuries 3 weeks later, and his colleagues were bombarded by flares and petrol bombs. He was true to his word. A 2-month ban on supporters attending games was introduced. When the turnstiles were finally reopened to the public, several new safeguards designed to prevent more injuries and fatalities occurring were in place. They have made a huge difference. The government brought in very, very strong measures after the death of the police officer last season, said Manos Staramopoulos, a Greek football journalist with Discovery Plus. If anybody is found with a pyrotechnic at a match now, they are automatically banned from football. The clubs also face having to play games behind closed doors if there are flares at their matches. It has worked. There is more respect, not. Most fans have changed their opinion. Kunturu also believes they have had the desired impact. Tougher laws were introduced by the government following the tragic death of the police officer, and anyone found to have committed a pyrotechnic offence at a football match now faces a heavy punishment, he said. There's also been a big push for IDs at football as well. You need to have a Greek ID number to buy a ticket to a match now. If you don't have one, you can't buy them. Obviously, there are ways around that, but it is one tactic they are using to stop repeat pyrotechnic offenders from attending games. There has been a huge improvement in the security camera systems inside stadiums. In the Premier League in England, clubs all have state-of-the-art security systems. If a fan says anything that's racist or discriminatory or throws anything, they can find them immediately and ban them. That is starting to happen more in Greece. In terms of the pyrotechnics specifically, there's definitely been an improvement. That has been obvious from watching Greek teams in Europe and in the big derby matches, where it used to be a huge problem. It has got better. At the moment, it's still too early to say if pyro will be eradicated from the Greek game altogether, but I really hope so. It's not just the police officer who tragically lost his life. Fans have died too. We still remember those fans to this day. It is horrible that these events keep happening. They tarnish Greek football's name at a time when Greek football is on the up. Greek clubs are doing very well in Europe. Our coefficient has improved. The national team is looking better. We're actually producing young, talented players who are sought after in Europe. We haven't had that for a while, certainly in my time supporting Greece and following the national team. We're finally starting to build a better reputation. Just this week it was announced the Greek Football Federation has finally purchased a training centre for the national team. That was promised after Greece won Euro 2004. I think the fans recognise there has to be a change as well. The Ligaridis tragedy occurred just 2 months after a Super League match had to be abandoned because Panathinaikos winger Juan Carlos had been struck by a firecracker which was thrown by an Olympiacos fan as he warmed up on the touchline. That was one of the big catalysts for change, said Kunturnur. Juanakar had to be stretchered off, and the game was postponed. The individual was arrested by the police. Panathinaikos were awarded a 3-0 win by the Greek Super League. The case went to the Court of Arbitration for Sport to decide if the sanctions were fair. There was talk of all professional sport in Greece being halted. That would have been hugely damaging, for football especially. It could have led to clubs being expelled from UEFA competitions. It would have set us back decades. It was a big wake-up call. The Hellenic Football Federation and the Greek Super League Board have done their utmost to prevent anything like that happening again, and the fans, even the ultras, have done their bit as well. Kunturu is pleased to report that the absence of flares, smoke bombs, strobes, flashbangs and rockets from Greek football stadiums this season has done nothing whatsoever to detract from the intensity of the matches. Greece has a reputation for having some of the most passionate fans in Europe, supporters who create of the best, loudest atmospheres, he said. The Olympiacos Ultras have done a great deal to help celebrate the 150th anniversary of the club this year. They back the team for 90 minutes and produce tifos. But taking pyro away hasn't sterilised the sport and meant there's no atmosphere to invigorate the team. The Ultras still bring that fiery atmosphere that is renowned throughout Europe. But it now doesn't go over the top and become less about football and more about fans trying to hurt each other physically and verbally. Kunturno continued, there are still underlying problems. Pyrotechnics are certainly still being used by some fans at games. Only recognised ultras groups are allowed entry to stadiums, but there are still criminal organisations involved in the underbelly of Greek football. They have to be stamped out. The Hellenic Football Federation and the Greek Super League are trying hard to legitimise Greek football, to make it a more desirable package for sponsors, to make it more marketable, to make more money, essentially. No one's going to watch it if a gun gets pulled out in the stadium or lit flares are thrown at players or referees. But there haven't been any games stopped or abandoned or point deductions or fines, and the league has continued. The Ultras have played a big part in that. That article was by Matthew Lindsay.
From the Glasgow Times, Thursday the 20th of March, from the sports section. Celtic duo left on bench as Japan seal World Cup spot. Article written by Robbie Hanratty. Celtic stars Daisen Maeda and Ryo Hatate were unused substitutes as Japan secured their place at the 2026 FIFA World Cup with a 2-0 victory over Bahrain at Saitama Stadium. Hajime Moriyasu's side became the first team to officially book their spot at the tournament, but there was no opportunity for the Hoops duo to showcase their talents on the international stage. Maeda has been in the form of his life for Celtic this season, terrorising Scottish Premiership defences with his relentless energy and clinical finishing. Hatate, meanwhile, remains a key cog in Brendan Rodgers' midfield, dictating play with his sharp passing and technical ability. Despite their club form, the pair were left on the sidelines as goals from Daiichi Kamada and Takefusa Kubo successfully navigated Japan's passage to North America. At least they were involved in the Japan squad to face Bahrain and were available to feature, unlike former Celtic striker Kyogo Furuhashi. The 30-year-old was one of the 4 players omitted from the matchday squad entirely, adding to his frustrations is making a big money move to Rennes during the winter transfer window. The forward has struggled for minutes in France and will be desperate to force his way into Japan's plans for the next year's World Cup. Elsewhere in World Cup qualifying, Celtic winger Hyung-Jung Yang saw some action for South Korea, playing in the final 5 minutes of their 1-1 draw with Oman. The Koreans remain top of their qualifying group and undefeated after round 7, but Hwang Myung-bo's side will be disappointed not to have secured all 3 points. And that report was written by Robbie Hanratty. From the Glasgow Times, Thursday 20th of March 2025, from the sports section. Rangers rival sets sights on homecoming Europa League final. Report by Mark Walker. Athletic Bilbao and Spain star Nico Williams admits that playing a European final in their own stadium would be the highlight of his career. And he's determined spectacular Athletic will knock Rangers out and move a step closer to his ambition. Rangers face the La Liga side in the quarter-finals of the tournament early next month with the second leg in Spain. Athletic Bilbao have further motivation to go through because their San Mamés Stadium will host its first ever European final in May. And Williams, the Spain hero who netted the opening goal and was man of the match in their Euro 2024 final win over England, is determined to win silverware with his club. He said, "For me and every Athletic fan in the world, reaching the final in Bilbao would be incredible. It would be a dream. I've been playing for Athletic since I was a child and you always dream of winning trophies. Because of where the final is this year, the Europa League is a very special tournament for us. I don't think anyone would understand this unless you're an Athletic fan. You saw what it was like when we won the Copa del Rey last year, so can you imagine what it would be like if we won the Europa League in our own city? We have to dream. We have to believe. We have a spectacular group of players and I think this is the year. If we keep playing the way we have been in this tournament, we have a chance to reach that final and become champions. But we have to concentrate on the quarter-finals with Rangers first. We're doing well in La Liga too, and we have big ambitions for this season." And that report was written by Mark Walker and read by Ian McKenna. From the Glasgow Times, Thursday the 20th of March, from the sports section. Scott McTominay a target for Napoli's Serie A title rivals. Report by Ewan Payton. Scotland's talisman Scott McTominay has emerged as a shock transfer target for major Serie A rival of his current club. The midfielder, 28, joined Napoli last summer after leaving Manchester United. He's gone on to become a firm fan favourite in Naples, working under manager Antonio Conte. They have been involved in a title battle from the get-go this season. They sit second in the table, 3 points behind Inter Milan, while they are 3 points ahead of Atlanta. However, it has emerged from reports in Italy that Napoli's direct rivals want to sign McTominay. According to Ficciayes, Inter holds a strong interest in the Scotland international. It said they will make an attempt to push a deal through this summer. However, Napoli have no intention of letting McTominay go, with the 7-goal man contracted until 2028. The report states Napoli would only consider an offer if it was compelling. And that report was by Ewan Payton. From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 21st of March, from the sports section. Benched at Rennes, left out by Japan, Kyogo vows to keep fighting. By sports writer Robbie Hanratty. Kyogo Furuhashi has expressed his gratitude for being called up to the Japan national team, despite struggling for game time since his January move to Rennes. The 30-year-old forward, who departed Celtic for the League One side during the winter transfer window, has found opportunities hard to come by in France, featuring for just 46 minutes in total since making his debut against Strasbourg on February the 2nd. Furuhashi has amassed 22 caps for his country, but appears to be out in the fringes of Haji Morisaya's plans. He was one of 4 players left out of the matchday squad for Japan's 2-0 World Cup qualifying victory over Bahrain on Thursday, a result that secured their place at next year's tournament alongside the hosts USA, Mexico and Canada. With a fixture against Saudi Arabia on Tuesday, Furuhashi remains hopeful that Japan boss Moriyasu may rotate his squad and offer him an opportunity to impress. "I'm grateful to have been called up, and with so many good forwards," Furuhashi said. "I hope to be able to show my strengths. The national team has scored a lot of goals, so I would like to score as well if I get the chance to play." Despite his struggles for minutes in League One, Furuhashi remains determined to make an impact for club and country. After watching his teammates secure qualification for the 2026 FIFA World Cup, he attempted to explain his lack of minutes at Rennes. He told Nikan Sports, "I'm running, hoping that 1 pass out of 10 will be enough. It's not good for a forward to stop moving there. I'm running and communicating. Even in difficult times, I believe I can make a splash somewhere. To that end, I want to prepare well and polish the areas I can on the pitch. That means I can perform well when I'm on the field, and I want to stay positive and do my best." And that report was written by Robbie Hanratty and read by Ian McKenna. From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 21st of March 2025, from the sports section. Carver well out of line and clipping Lennon Miller's wings, by Graham McGarry. It was somewhat ironic this week to hear Scotland assistant manager John Carver admonishing Lennon Miller for misspeaking in the media, given that he, by the simple act of commenting on his interview negatively, was succeeding only in making a mountain out of a molehill. Carver is an amiable sort and wouldn't have meant any harm, but by saying Miller had made a mistake and he will learn from it after the Motherwell youngster had committed the heinous crime of stating his ambition to be the best player in the Scotland squad, he himself made the whole thing a bigger issue than it ever needed to be. It was quite clear that Miller misspoke when he blurted out that he could achieve that target in a couple of months, but even if he hadn't, who cares? There's nothing wrong with young players showing a bit of self-assurance, and at a time when the way players are developed in this country is under the microscope, he came across like a dinosaur throwback slapping down an uppity, cocky kid. A mischaracterisation of Miller, if ever there was one. That wouldn't have been the intention, I'm sure, but there seems to be an old school code that lingers around football here that youngsters aren't ready for first team football until they are 23, and even then, they better not get ahead of themselves. The SFA study into the transition phase last year found that getting kids into the first team at an earlier age was a crucial step in their development, and a major reason why Scotland was struggling to produce players was a reluctance for managers to put their trust in their prospects. Motherwell, and we must give former manager Stuart Kettlewell some credit for this despite his tumultuous departure from the club, have been at the top of the standings in the Premiership this season in terms of giving minutes to under 21 players, with Miller and Ewan Wilson getting plenty of game time. Miller may only be 18, but he already has 68 senior appearances under his belt, and I have no doubt he would be able to handle stepping into the Scotland midfield, if not over this double-header with Greece, then soon. Thankfully, Steve Clarke handled the situation much better when he was questioned on Miller's comments and Carver's reaction to them later in the week. And we also have to give credit to Clarke for shaking off his own image of being reluctant to give younger players opportunities. He too received something of a backlash for comments in the past attempting to dampen down excitement over Ben Doak, and he has possibly learnt from that. Unfortunately, the winger is injured for these matches, but his success has possibly been the spark for Clarke to open his mind a little and give this chance to Miller and Hearts striker James Wilson. It would be great for the nation to see those two getting some time on the pitch over the next few days, and, from a purely selfish Motherwell point of view, it wouldn't hurt to bump up the asking price for Miller when he inevitably moves on from Fir Park this summer. It is a shame that while Motherwell fans have got to enjoy Miller's progress, they probably won't see the best of him in claret and amber, as I have no doubt he will go on to develop further into a top-class player and be plying his trade at the highest level. He might not be as exciting as a James McFadden, or as eye-catching as a David Turnbull, but for pure ability, he could well go on to eclipse the achievements of any player that has come through the club's academy. Motherwell deserve huge kudos for the way they have nurtured Miller, but another thing they have proven themselves to be adept at is talking their players up. With the greatest of respect to James Scott, fine young player as he was, getting the fee they did for him was a masterclass in maximising the profile of your assets. Miller, though, deserves all of the hype they have managed to generate around him and more, and he will surely vindicate his reputation in the future as in one of the 5 top leagues, as well as in a Scotland jersey. So, from Miller's point of view, and in the interest of Motherwell getting the best fee they possibly can for him, the last thing any of us need to be hearing is the likes of Carver clipping his wings or talking him down. Heaven forbid that fans get excited about a young player, eh? Get him in the Scotland team and show Motherwell the money. And another thing. You would have got long odds a few years back in the middle section of the Philadelphia stand becoming the Fir Park hotspot for trouble, but, having seemingly chased Stuart Kettlewell out of the door, the erstwhile sweetie paper rustlers were at it again last week, drawing the ire of former Motherwell manager Stephen Robinson. Comments about St Mirren player Callum Boyd-Munce as he lay in the park with a neckbrace on were of course out of order, but it seems that, in general, the Statler and Waldorfs of Motherwell are getting under the skin of those in the dugouts. On either side. Let's hope Michael Wimmer doesn't pick up too much comprehension of the Lanarkshire twang should things go awry over the next few weeks. It's almost an extra incentive to make the top 6 to see Barry Ferguson prowling the technical area in front of them. And that article was written by Graham McGarry and read by me, Ian McKenna. From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 21st of March, from the sports section. Clark in Scotland warning as he praises Ralston and Hanley. Report by senior sports writer Graham McGarry. Scotland manager Steve Clark has warned his players not to rest on their laurels ahead of the second leg of the Nations League relegation playoff, despite earning a heroic 1-0 victory in Greece. A contentious Scott McTominay penalty was nevertheless a just reward for an impressive first half display from the Scots, but the Greeks showed their teeth as they completely dominated the second period, going close to levelling the game on several occasions. That was more than enough to serve a reminder to Clark that Greece have enough about them to turn this tie in its head at Hampden on Sunday night, and he hopes his players have also heeded that warning. We knew we were coming to play a good side. We knew it was going to be a tough game, Clark said. I thought first half we were really good. A lot of good play with the ball, created some really good chances. Could have been at least 2 in front and at half time. If I'm greedy, I could probably say 3. But went in at half time 1-0 in front. We knew that Greece would come at us a little bit in the second half. They did. And after they did, we didn't quite manage to regain our rhythm. So we had to show a different side to our game, different side to our character. Brave defending, good defending. But maybe we should have been a little bit braver in the ball and tried to dictate the game a little bit more, second half, if I'm being a little bit picky. I think from the first half, obviously we get the 1-0 in front. From the second half, we know that the game at Hampden is going to be difficult because Greece are a good side. Their away record in the group stage of the Nations League is a win in Ireland, a win in Finland, and a win against England at Wembley. So we know it's going to be a tough game. This game is not dead yet. No way. Clark praised his defence in particular after the back four of Anthony Ralston, John Souttar, Grant Hanley and Andy Robertson earned their third clean sheet in 4 matches, with the only goal they have conceded in that period a long-range wonder strike in the 2-1 win over Poland in Warsaw. It was good, he said. 2 of the defenders don't play regularly at their club either, which is a big credit to them and how they prepared themselves. Tony Ralston and Grant Hanley. Going there, doing a great job. In front of them, we were solid in midfield. We worked hard, but we just dropped a little bit too deep. You defend as a team. We were under a lot of pressure second half. A lot of situations, corners, free kicks. We defended them really well. And when you strip back the figures, there's only 1 shot on target for Greece. so it wasn't like Craig Gordon was making save after save after save, but we did feel a little bit under pressure second half. And that article was written by Graham McGarry and read by Ian McKenna. From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 21st of March, from the sports section. Dunfermline appoint Neil Lennon in hope of strong season finale. Report by Robbie Hanratty. Neil Lennon has officially been named as the new manager of Dunfermline Athletic. The former Celtic and Hibernian boss joins the Scottish Championship strugglers on an initial short-term deal, running until the end of the season, following the recent departure of Michael Tisler. Lennon, who boasts an impressive managerial record, is seen as the outstanding candidate to guide the East End Park club through a challenging period. The 53-year-old has enjoyed significant success in his managerial career, notably with Celtic, where he won 5 Scottish Premiership titles, 4 Scottish Cups, and 1 League Cup. Lennon managed Celtic in both caretaker and full-time capacities, overseeing 335 matches during his time with the club. His managerial accomplishments also include winning the Scottish Championship with Hibernian, as well as the Cypriot Cup with Omonia Nicosia. Dunfermline's chairman and CEO, David Cook, expressed his delight at the appointment. Firstly, I'd like to welcome Neil and Ian to KDM Group East End Park. We very quickly identified Neil as an outstanding candidate for the role. Having managed at the very highest level in the country, he will bring a huge wealth of experience to the club. Cook also acknowledged the key role played by James Board in securing Lennon's services, adding, "This wouldn't have been possible without James Board's personal involvement in the negotiations." Lennon is already focusing on preparing the squad for next Saturday's crucial matches against Ayr United, where he will face his former captain Scott Brown in the dugout. With just 7 games remaining in the Championship, the Northern Irishman is determined to fight to maintain their league status. "I'm very excited about the prospect of joining Dunfermline Athletic Football Club," Lennon said. "Once I spoke to James Board, he put across a very compelling proposition on his ambitions for the club. However, short term, our aim is obviously to be in the Championship next season. Having watched the match against Aberdeen in the Scottish Cup, it's clear there's talent in the squad, perhaps just a little low in confidence at the minute. What we want to do is bring an energy, confidence and an exciting brand of football. It may not happen instantly, but we want to play on the front foot, excite supporters and get the players believing in what we're doing." And the article was written by Robbie Hanratty. From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 21st of March 2025, from the sports section. First Glasgow to put on dedicated service for big event. Report by digital journalist Ben Waddell. First Glasgow will put on a dedicated service to Hampden Park this weekend, before and after Scotland's match. The travel operator said it is making it as easy as possible for footy fans to get to the stadium on Sunday, March 23rd, thanks to its X31 express service. Scotland will take on Greece as part of their Nations League clash. Announcing the service, First said it will run roughly every 20 minutes from 3:30pm on Sunday. Fans travelling to the stadium can board the service in Union Street, outside O'Neill's Bar, before being dropped off in Cathcart Road behind the West Stand at Hampden. After the game, fans heading to the city centre can board the X31 service in Cathcart Road between the West Stand and at Hampden, dropping off at Stockwell Street, Glasford Street and George Square. Tickets for the service are priced at £3.20 for an adult single or £5.20 for an adult two-trip. A child two-trip ticket is priced at £2.50. And the article was written by Ben Waddell and read by Ian. From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 21st of March, from the sports section. Scotland fans stuck in Greece after blaze near Heathrow. Report by Rosie Lewis. Scotland fans have been left stuck in Greece after a blaze near Britain's busiest airport. Supporters returning to Scotland from Athens have had to find alternative routes home due to the disruption caused by an electrical substation fire near London Heathrow. We reported how Glasgow Airport issued a warning to travellers following the inferno this morning. The Trouble have said Heathrow is closed today due to a significant power outage. Due to this, those heading to the London airport from Glasgow were being urged to check with their airline as all flights had been axed. Scotland fans were in the Greek capital following the national team's match against Greece on Thursday, March the 20th. The BBC reported that Gavin Keith and Edie Stewart from Aberdeen only found out about the disruption when they woke up in Athens earlier today. The pair were part of a group booking back to Aberdeen via Heathrow on a British Airways flight. However, they have since been informed that there will be a 5 p.m. service to Heathrow, but the duo are not confident it will go ahead. Edith told the BBC, "If we can't get out of here tonight, we'll stay for a party. It's the chance you take when you're travelling. I would prefer to get home tonight or tomorrow because I have commitments at home. We know Heathrow is shut all day. The airlines are giving us the next available flight, but it's just a case of waiting." More than 1,300 flights to and from Heathrow will be disrupted today due to the closure of the airport following the inferno. Thousands of homes have also been left without power, and more than 100 people were evacuated after a transformer within the North Hyde electrical substation caught fire in West London. The airport, which is supplied by the substation, said it was amongst those impacted by the power outage. Online flight tracking service Flightradar24 said the closure would affect more than 1,350 flights to and from Heathrow. This includes 679 scheduled to land and 678 due to take off from the airport. It said 120 flights to the airport were in the air when the closure was announced. Heathrow is the UK's largest airport, with more than 83.9 million passengers travelling through its terminals in 2024. A Heathrow spokesperson said, "Heathrow is experiencing a significant power outage across the airport due to a large fire at a nearby electrical substation. Whilst fire crews are responding to the incident, we do not have clarity on when power may be reliably restored. To maintain the safety of our passengers and colleagues, we have no choice but to close Heathrow on 11:59 p.m. on March 21st, 2025. We expect significant disruption over the coming days, and passengers should not travel to the airport under any circumstances until the airport reopens. We will provide an update when more information on the resumption of operations is available. We know this will be disappointing for passengers, and we want to reassure you that we are working as hard as possible to resolve the situation." And that report was written by Rosie Lewis and read by Ian McKenna. From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 21st of March, from the sports section, Union Bears call out abuse of police power before Celtic vs Rangers. Article written by David Irvin. The Union Bears have called out flagrant and unwarranted abuse of power by Police Scotland before the match between Celtic and Rangers. The supporter group issued a statement on Friday afternoon revealing legal action has been pursued over a Section 60 order. The law, under the Criminal Justice and Public Order Act 1994, allows officers to stop and search people where appropriate or necessary. Police officers are also permitted to reacquire the removal of any item they believe has been used wholly or partly for the purposes of concealing a person's identity. The power was in force throughout Glasgow from 8 a.m. on Sunday, March 16th until 11:50 p.m. on the same day. The Union Bears correspondence on the X page also questions the legality of the search and seizure tactics employed in the policing ahead of the derby fixture at Celtic Park. The Union Bears have demanded Rangers chiefs break their silence over the matter, stating the club appears solely interested in demonising supporters rather than standing in their defence. Video footage from outside the ground appeared to show a number of Union Bears members being led away from the ground before kick-off, with reports the group were denied entry. The statement read, "Last Sunday, our supporters endured a flagrant and unwarranted abuse of power through Police Scotland's deployment of a Section 60 authority, an action we believe was unlawful. Despite repeated attempts to liaise with Rangers, it has been made clear that they have no desire to engage with their supporters in any meaningful way. The club's silence speaks volumes. They appear solely interested in demonising supporters rather than standing in their defence. We have now pursued legal advice for all those subjected to this overreach, and we have formally challenged both the legitimacy of implementing Section 60 order without any proper justification, and the questionable legality of the search and seizure tactics employed. We demand that the club break its silence, publicly acknowledge this abuse of power, and exert its influence to compel Police Scotland to account for their actions and explain how they could possibly justify the imposition of such measures against supporters. Union Bears, no surrender. It comes after Rangers released a stinging statement blasting a Union Bears display during the Europa League match against Fenerbahce. The club was charged over the racist and or discriminatory behaviour by UEFA and condemned the display which was held in the Copland stand. It read, "Keep woke foreign ideologies out. Defend Europe." And that article was written by David Irvin and read by Ian McKenna. Hello, this is Ian from Q and Review Print speaking to the blind to let you know that this week's Glasgow Times Sports podcast is a lot shorter than usual because the gentleman who normally reads the majority of the sports articles, Bill, is away on a cruise, but hopefully he'll be back next week. Thank you. That concludes this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our channels at Q and Review and to tell your friends about our service